it also through the fact that we don't have protection from Health Canada in if you have allergies. But there's so many ways that you can lose your home in this country, and it's all done legally. Now, I had no idea, despite my years of advertising, marketing, corporations, and investments, and I was a real estate agent, I had no idea that anybody could steal your property in secret, and that our laws make property theft, real estate theft, title theft, and fraud, and embezzlement of state funds all are legal because of secret filing. Why would I think that's okay? Listen, it's also far-fetched. People don't even believe me. I keep trying to tell them, but nobody believes me. But the stories are all true. Only the names are not revealed at their personal request. Please, I'm urging people, contact your members of parliament. Help me get a democracy for Canada. Now, this is a picture of my mother shortly before she died. Yes, she did die from heart failure, but she died of a broken heart because she was robbed of everything. She had used up her life savings on renovating properties that she didn't even own. And she wound up in abject poverty, from which I had to rescue her. In the end, I wound up homeless myself. And that's a very long, separate story, which I have put on my website. Now, secret filing was the main reason for everything that happened to us, because it snowballs. It starts with one thing, severance of the joint tenancy on the matrimonial home in secret. Then my brother, as an executor, took title to the properties in the home in secret. And then he didn't pay the taxes, all in secret. And the tax department didn't have to tell us that he'd changed the address to his home. And we didn't even have the right to know. And we didn't, also in secret, he was filing fraudulent income tax, which I reported, and the government doesn't care about, and that was all done in secret. I had to pay $2,000 to an accountant just to get a copy of the income tax, even though I was my mother's executor and I had power of attorney. So this is what secret filing does. It destroys your life completely. I know a lot of people have committed suicide because of this. And quite frankly, I came awfully close. But not because of what my brother did, but because I was ripped off and lied to by Trent Faldine, my lawyer, of $60,000, who lied to me and promised to help me get media, and he promised to help me get the story and file an affidavit against the government of Ontario to get the secret filing banned under Section 7 of the Charter of Rights, because if you lose half your home and your properties in secret, you also lose $500,000 in secret. That affects your financial future. And that's supposed to be against the law, but, not in Canada, not with secret filing. So, I mean, it's just, what's it going to take? How would you like to live with a violent, abusive spouse 61 years and 18 years after his death, discover you don't even own the matrimonial home you've lived in for 60 years? Yes, that's what happened to my mother, Upchan, at the age of 95. But we were now facing a public auction and being evicted from our home because my brother didn't pay the taxes. And it was all done in secret. We didn't even have the right to know that the taxes weren't being paid, and we were the registered owners. So that's the kind of laws we have in Canada. You got to be crazy to invest in Canada. If I'd known better, I would have gone to Saskatchewan or stayed in New York. But of course, hindsight's 20/20. So you do not even have the most basic of human rights, the right to be notified in writing before any change. And this led to an 18-year nightmare of being held hostage by my brother, and $1 million stolen in fraud and embezzlement and theft of property rights, and it was all made legal. So the police wouldn't lift a finger to help me, and not because I don't have a good relationship with the police, because actually I've helped them more than they'll ever help me. I showed them how, I gave them information on how to change their wills so no executor can do that. You can add a clause in protection, and I've got that on my website. And I also sent them the information to get title insurance, which they didn't know about. But they refused to lay any charges against my brother. And they won't. And my brother's not the only one. He's one of thousands of criminals that they won't lay charges against because it's done through the courts. It's done in secret on title the law is make secret filing legal, so therefore you have to go to civil court. So after 17 years, we lost everything. It made me homeless trying to get rights. Now this is a story of a World War II veteran, a Canadian veteran of 3 wars at 92 discovered his nephew had title to his home. I took him to my lawyer to find out how and why. He had signed what he thought was a will, leaving his home to his nephew after his death. But what the nephew had done was had him sign a transfer of title and then had the transfer filed in secret. So the law allows for that, you see. You can file anything in secret in this country, and you don't have the right as a registered owner to even be notified. Of course, what he did was fraud, but it's a fight that no police would lay a charge. He had to go to court, and it would have cost him over $100,000. So he had to give it up. He was too sick and too old to fight it. So I contacted a man by the name of Vic in the Veterans Association who helped move him into a nursing home. And he had to just walk away from his home. And he lost everything. And Ontario millionaires' heirs lost their inheritance from their father and never understood why. Well, it was because Ontario law allows for an executor to take title to all the properties. The executor sold the properties and left for parts unknown and absconded with the money. And they never know, and they don't know to this day, because when I found the person who asked me how could anything like that happen, he said, well, he didn't want to open up a can of worms. And they wouldn't have wanted to go public anyway. They didn't want to face the embarrassment. They're wealthy, prominent people, and they didn't want to discuss it. Now, here's a sample of a home that a man had in Hamilton. And in his 30s, he got a contract out of town. Luckily, long before the market boom, he gave his house key to a lady friend to check on it while away. When he returned 4 years later, discovered she had registered her name on title to his home in secret. His lawyer advised him that the court costs and years of fighting her would exceed the value, so he was forced to pay her half the current market value to get her name off title and regain his home. Fortunately, he'd made enough money that he was able to do that. But most victims don't. These 3 children belong to a couple that I met, a gentle, elderly Sudbury widower for many years. Lonely, developed a friendship with a woman for someone to have dinner with and go movies with. Just a companion. Not a lover, but just simply a friend. And she did not live with him. In his will, he left his home to his son, who was a construction laborer, married with 3 young children, renting, unable to afford a home. When the gentleman died, his son's lawyer discovered the woman was on title, filed in secret with no permission or notice to his father. Because, see, that's legal. It's legal to do that. Now, the lawyer demanded $50,000 cash up front and said it was not worth his time to fight her in court. The son was just a poor, uneducated worker, and he said to me, not having that kind of money, he was just forced to abandon it, and he continues to live in a rental unit. Well, frankly, that lawyer was a mercenary SOB jerk. He could have at least filed for his father's half title, filed for partition to sell. See, that's something else that no lawyer told me about. 3 lawyers and $100,000 later, I didn't even know that I had the right in 2008 to force the sale of our properties when the market was high and get rid of my brother. But no lawyer told me that. So the wording is called partition to sell. Mark it down, people, because no lawyer will tell you about it. And it would have got him half the value of the house. So he would have gotten something. But what that woman did was fraud. And if secret filing had been banned, and if we had the same laws as in Saskatchewan, the father would have had to have been notified by her lawyer before she even put her name on title, and he could have fought it and said, that woman does not live with me, she is not a common law wife, and he could have proved it because she had her own address at the time. Okay? That's what would have happened, except that isn't what happened. Now, a middle-aged single mother who worked 2 jobs to raise her children purchased a home and paid the mortgage off after 30 years. With her children all on their own working, she began to date a charming man. He put his name in secret on title to her home, put on it a mortgage above its market value with 3 separate financial lenders, all in secret. Then he quickly disappeared. She lost her home and is now living in a subsidized housing. At 75, she's cleaning houses to survive. Another woman in her 60s, a widower, lost her home to her son. He also in secret got his name on title to her home, ran up debts, and she was forced to sell to pay off the debts. She too wound up in a senior subsidized residency. So you see, even if you're not a victim, you're a victim, because that affects your taxpayer. That affects your taxes. Somebody's got to pay for these people and these billions of dollars being lost every year. Yeah, well, you're paying for it, people. You may not think you are, but you are. So many people are victims of secret filing, but they have no voice. Their plight is trapped in a corrupt court system designed for the criminal. Makes them victims of fraud, mortgage fraud, title theft, embezzlement of estate funds, and all made legal by secret filing. And these court cases are never made public because our media just ignores it completely. I researched back over 100 years, and I found most of the cases that even made it to court, and there really weren't many, more than a handful because of the costs involved, and they lost in lower court. One made it to Supreme Court after 3 years and $60,000, and she got her property back, but she didn't get back her $60,000, or was it? No, I think it was closer to $100,000. But anyway, 3 years in court, you're looking at a good $100,000, and the criminal is long gone. So you can't get blood from a stone. In 2005, over 100 homes in and around the Toronto area, homeowners discovered that a criminal had put mortgages on their homes without their knowledge in secret. Did the Ontario government even consider banning secret filing to stop and prevent such crimes? No, not on your life. Instead, they decided the mortgages to the banks were legal and the insurance companies had to pay off the mortgages. Isn't that just sweet? Yes. Isn't that just really, really sweet? I mean, think about it, folks. Unbelievable. But that's Canada. Now, I've sent all this to Doug Ford and his team, and so far I've had nothing back. I'm not going to say anything more on that. I hope, as a businessman, that at some point he will consider what financial ruin this is costing